Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. It is January 13th. Thank you for joining us. We're glad that you're with us, whether you're on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching it. Make sure if you have questions and comments, please put those into the chat features there, and we'll make sure we'll try to get to as many questions or all questions if we can. But we have some cool stuff that we're going to talk about today. And pre-show, as Brian and I were talking, I think there's some new things that he can teach us today. Brian, thanks for being with us. Brian Moses, everybody's with us today out of New Hampshire. Brian, can you give us an introduction to our audience of who you are, and then I'll make sure to remind them why you're on here, because your success story is pretty impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of REDX, and it's a privilege to be on your show and talking to your audience and hopefully adding some value. I got into the business right out of college, as we were talking before, because I thought real estate agents made tons of money. And I thought they all drove nice cars and they wore Armani Italian suits, custom from Italy, and they lived in beautiful mansions. So I told my parents at graduation, I go, "You guys are going to be so proud. I know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life."
So wait, what did you study in college?
I started with criminal justice. I wanted to be an FBI agent, and then I transitioned over to business. So
okay.
I graduated with a business degree.
Okay, all right. Well, that's applicable. It's always funny to hear somebody go, "Look, it was vocal performance for 8 years," and then dive right into real estate. But okay, there's some relevancy in what your degree was. So you got into real estate, and I agree, right? We all get into it with high hopes, right? We all want the Mercedes S-Class and the big mansion on the water. What then?
So my first year, it wasn't for lack of motivation or lack of effort. I made a whopping $18,000. The average sales price was $80,000 back then. $80,000 was the average sales price. Now I coach agents who make $80,000 a deal, but $80,000 was the average sales price. I did 12 deals, and I made, after splits and expenses, I made 18 grand. I was still living at home. My parents are like, "How long are you going to do this?" I go, "I'm not a quitter. You didn't raise a quitter, Dad." So I stayed with it and drove that ship right into an iceberg and got deep into debt with the IRS and struggled my way. And my dad had a conversation with me, and he said, "This stuff you're doing, cold calling, door knocking, farming, getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, pulling the expireds in for sale by owners from the previous day, and then looking up their phone numbers and then calling them at 7 o'clock in the morning." He goes, "I punch you in the face. You're a pest." And I'm like, "Holy smokes, that's harsh, Dad." He goes, "Look, I own a plumbing business. I don't go chasing the business." I said, "Well, Dad, there's thousands of real estate agents. There's not very many plumbers." So he gave me some sage advice. He said, "Why don't you find somebody who's getting the results that you want to get and model their behavior?" In other words, stop listening to everybody who has an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. And opinions, according to my dad, righteously so, opinions are not based on fact. So your opinion could be right, it could be wrong, but everybody has one. So the best advice I got early on was stop listening to other people's opinions and follow the path of success with people that have paved the way. And I hooked up with some direct response marketing people outside of the industry. And they said, this is why you shouldn't promote yourself. People don't care about you. They care about themselves. So instead of promoting yourself, promote an offer. Promote something that's unique. Promote something that's different. Promote something that would cause somebody who's thinking about selling their house to pick up the phone and call you, even though their next door neighbor's a realtor. So when you can crack that code, when you can come up with something compelling that's unique, that's different, that gets people who you want to talk to, sellers, to call you when they know 5 other real estate agents, now you got a fighting chance.
Okay, so this is super interesting, and we talked a little bit pre-show, and you gave me a glimpse into how you built your business and became extremely successful. Right, you were single digit in terms of rankings for Coldwell Banker worldwide at multiple points in your career. Correct?
Yeah, twice we were top 10 in the world for 7 years. Twice I was the #2 agent in the world for Coldwell Banker.
See, that's amazing. So I'm excited to hear what you have. Which your intro leads us kind of right into the topic of what I wanted to start with today, and that's what to do to attract highly motivated clients. Right? There's all kinds of things that we can do to attract people, but the motivation is really what's key. Right? Even when somebody's prospecting to expireds and for sale by owners, we can set lots of listing appointments. But whether or not those listing appointments are actually worth our time really boils down to whether or not somebody is a motivated seller. If they're just dabbling their toe in the water, that oftentimes is not worth our time to spend there. We want to go focus on motivated people. So let's start there for our audience. How do you attract motivated clients? That's where I want to start.
So you give them what they want.
Okay.
It's really that simple.
Tell me more, because that's a really simple answer, but I think in practice it's probably got a few more moving parts.
Okay, so when you put yourself in the prospect shoes, in the mind of a seller, in the mind of a buyer, what does a buyer want? They want access to inventory, right?
Okay.
I find that is a universal overwhelmingly favorable statistical odds putting you in your favor. If you offer inventory, and we have access to inventory. Now, most people will say, well, Brian, there's a shortage of inventory. I understand that, but there's inventory and you have the keys to the inventory. So for buyers, inventory is good. I use the word bait. If you were going to go fishing, you don't catch a fish with your hands. You could. That's hard work. That's like cold calling. And then you graduate to the spear. You're the Indian. And instead of cold calling, maybe you go door knocking. But fish with a net. Let's appeal to all the fish that all the sellers that want to sell, all the buyers that want to sell, give them what they want. So buyers want inventory. They want a good deal. Sellers want the most amount of money. They don't want to be homeless. So come up with some messaging, some marketing messages that speak to that will stop them in their tracks. They were about to call their neighbor who is a hairdresser and has a real estate license, right? Like there's a lot of those people out there, and they like their neighbor, and the neighbor does a great job with her hair. So all real estate agents are the same. I'm going to list my house with my neighbor. But then they see a message, a marketing message, a postcard, a Facebook post, a flyer, a business card with a message on it that says something unique and different. And they go, I don't think Susie can do that.
So give me an example of what that looks like, because if I'm going, okay, I want to give them what they want, right? And what they're trying to get as a seller, they're trying to get the most amount of money. They're trying to get the bottom line, but I want them to do that through me as their real estate agent rather than hairdresser neighbor. Give me some examples of what that looks like. Some of those messages that could attract somebody to go, that seems different than every other realtor.
Okay, where is your market? Where do you live?
I'm in Utah.
Okay, what city?
In Orem, Utah, central Utah.
Okay, so we want to target a particular audience. So if I were looking for sellers in Orem, Utah, what's the average sales price?
Right now, about $550,000.
Okay, and do you have $600,000 and $700,000 and $800,000 neighborhoods?
Yep.
Do you want a $500,000 listing or an $800,000 listing?
Yeah, if I had to choose between one or the other, I'd have the 800.
Okay, because the days on market are still robust and good, right?
Yep.
And you'll earn more, and the buyers calling you on that property probably have a better job, probably have better credit, probably have more money to put down, probably are less fussy, less picky. So a lot of reasons to move our average sales price up. lot of people I talk to, they want to double their units. And I say, why do you want to double your units? Why don't we just be more strategic, work less, and make more money? So what's a neighborhood in Orem, Utah that has $800,000 listings?
Let's see, a specific neighborhood. Well, I'll pick a neighboring city. So Mapleton is a city that typically has, in fact, they're usually about $1 million and up. Perfect. Or close to it.
All right. And everybody watching or listening will be able to apply these principles to their market. So where do you want to get listings? So it's going to be Mapleton, Utah is where I want to get listings. Let's pretend I'm a brand new agent. I just got my license. I don't have any buyers. I don't have any sellers. I haven't even put a contact list together. Are there buyers? R-A-R-E. Are there buyers actively looking for homes in Mapleton, Utah?
Yes.
Are there active buyers looking with my competition?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we write a letter, and instead of talking about how great we are and how we provide great service and we're available to answer all your questions, and here's my business card, and call me if you have any questions, and doing the traditional farming, why don't we send neighborhoods, subdivisions in Mapleton, Utah, a letter that says, hey, due to the shortage of inventory in Mapleton, there are several buyers actively looking for a home and have been unsuccessful in finding one. Isn't that true, by the way? Kind of side note. So all we're doing is being the vehicle or the messenger to tell the sellers that, hey, ding dong, there's a shortage of homes. And do you know what? Some of these buyers are willing to pay $50,000, $75,000 over asking price, waive inspections, waive appraisal contingencies, and you may be able to sell your home without ever having to formally put it on the market. If that interests you, give me a call.
And now a message like that, you said in a letter, right? So you're sending a letter, stamp on an envelope, just dropping a letter to
you can do that. You can also run an ad on Facebook. Hey, Mapleton homeowners, thinking of selling your home? Dozens of pre-approved and cash buyers looking for homes in Mapleton between this price, $800,000 and $2 million, willing to waive inspections, willing to pay over asking price, willing to allow you to stay beyond your closing date. Give me a call and see if any of the buyers that we're working with match your criteria. All I want to do is get the seller to call me. Then step two is let's learn the skills to get face-to-face that. But I hope everybody watching is without judgment, right? Because we all have a judgment, and people are judging this and going, oh, there's two sides. Some people are going, I love this. And how do I convert it? And that's great. And I'll offer you some free training that people can go to if they want at the end and learn more about this specific concept. And then people are going, well, wait a minute, you don't have any buyers. I didn't say I did. I'm a marketing guy. If we don't have any leads, we're going to starve. So I don't even see myself at the height of my business. I never saw myself as a realtor. I saw myself as a marketing expert. I'm a black belt in generating highly motivated prospects to call me. Now, I'm not worried about whether I convert them all or don't convert them all. I know that my chances go up significantly for success if I'm talking to 5 sellers every day. If I can talk to 5 people who want to sell their house every day, a blind squirrel finds nut once in a while. I'm going to get some of those listings.
So let me ask this question, because there's a lot of campaigns out there, even in my own personal Facebook feed. There's a lot of campaigns that I look at that aren't attractive, And then there are some that will grab my attention and I go, let me think about that. But the truth is I'm not looking to buy or sell right now. So when those types of people call in, what's the next step to weed out the ones that are just time wasters that are going, well, I'm just curious to see what my house is worth so that I can go get a HELOC, right? I want to know, how do we get the people that go, yeah, I want to take advantage of this? What's the next step?
All right. So one of the things I wrote in my questionnaire for you is no lead is a bad lead.
Okay.
I think that's a catastrophic mistake that people think my leads are no good.
Okay.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So if somebody calls me on that letter, someone calls me on that Facebook post, I've been doing this long enough to know that the majority of the time, not all the time, sometimes you'll get somebody who wants to do a refi, or they're 95 years old and they're sitting around with nothing to do and they're going, hey, what could I get for my house? And I'm just curious and I want to kill some time. That's not the majority. I'll give you an example. When's the last time you went to a Home Depot or a Lowe's?
I'm a project guy, so just yesterday I was at Lowe's.
Okay. And the person in the blue apron, Lowe's, hi, can I help you? You may say,
thanks.
No thanks, just looking. You're there for a reason. There's smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So people don't generally respond to a direct response message unless there's some level of interest. So don't judge your leads. When's the last time somebody watching went to a cigar shop? I talk to people, I use that example, and they're like, I've never been to one in my life. When do you think you're going? Probably never. Why? I don't smoke cigars. It's fair, it's reasonable to assume. We overcomplicate this. We overthink it. Somebody comes into a cigar shop, there's something going on that's brought them into the cigar shop. So, recently my wife told me, her car needs a lot of work. So we're thinking about trading it in and getting a new car. The other day, we're at the dealership. Do you think Brian Moses and his wife Janet are at the dealership because we have zero interest in a car?
Yeah, you're not there to get your nails painted. That's for sure.
It's crazy, right? Or when's the last time you walked into a hair salon? This person says, can I help you? Oh no, I'm just checking out your salon. So
I'm just browsing.
Yeah. So assume all leads are good and then ask for the appointment. Ask for the appointment. If there's no motivation, they're not going to let you come to their house. They're going to give you some resistance. If they're timing, and some of these leads are nurture leads, right? They're 3 months out, 6 months out, and you're not going to get an appointment, so they go in the nurture bucket. But the marketing got them to raise their hand and call.
I love it. So, and I love the idea of no lead is a bad lead, right? Is that and your metaphor of where there's smoke, there's fire makes perfect sense, right? I've had many conversations where I go, look, any lead is better than no leads at all. But I think that you've just provided me a way to help people understand that better. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And so we've got all of these leads. And like you said, some of those are going to be nurture leads, or they're not all going to convert right away. But how do we ensure then that to take this one step further, how do we ensure that those that maybe are the nurturers, because the ones that are going to take action right away, they're going to take action, right? And a month down the road, they will have taken action, and we're already in that process. So let's focus on these then that are maybe the ones that are not ready to do anything right away, the nurture leads. How do you ensure that those get converted at the highest level possible? I want as many of those as possible to convert and turn into a paid transaction. How do you ensure that happens?
Okay, so I have a very simple 3-step process. Generate an inquiry.
Okay.
Book the appointment, and you book the appointment by making an offer. So I don't care who I'm talking to. I don't care what they say. If they responded, there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm going to have a super compelling offer and I'm going to get an appointment with the majority of the people I speak to, because buying a home is a process, selling a home is a process. It's not an event. And there is value in talking to me before you go to market or before you start looking. And I'll be able to articulate that. And I'll give you an example in a second. Once I have the appointment, I qualify that appointment. So it's a 4-step process. I apologize. I don't qualify the appointment before I have the appointment. That is very important. A lot of real estate agents don't want to waste their time, so they get a lead. We know now that where there's smoke, there's fire. And they screw it up by saying, so are you, if you find a house that matches all your criteria, are you in a position to buy it now? Don't ask that question. Are you working with a realtor? Are you pre-approved? How much money are you putting down? Stop the nonsense. Think about how you would feel if you walked into a store, a showroom, talked to somebody, and they started grilling you. Get the appointment first, then ask the qualifying questions. And then when you're at the appointment, acquire the client. Acquire the client. And everybody has different timelines. So I can post-date in the listing agreement. I can post-date a buyer agreement. But my process is the same. Get the appointment, get the client. So here's what I say. Most leads, even the ones that respond on my direct response messaging, will say, well, we were just starting to think about this. We're not ready yet. When someone tells you they're not ready, you're not ready for what? We're not ready to buy, and or they'll say we're not ready to sell. Oh, I wouldn't expect you to be. Don't talk to your leads about buying or selling. Big distinction. Instead, talk to them about looking. So instead of talking to a buyer about buying, talk to them about looking, because looking comes before buying. And you'll get more yeses if you ask them if they're open to looking at inventory that you can provide for them, because they're already looking. So win-win, right? They're already looking. They're looking on Zillow. They're looking on Realtor.com. Now you can give them direct access in front of Realtor.com, in front of Zillow, by hooking them up with your portal that goes right to the MLS, direct feed. I call it my Buyer Advantage program. So if I'm talking to a buyer and they say, we're not ready, we're months away. No problem. When the timing's right, is getting a good deal important to you? Everybody says yes.
Every time. Yep, every time.
Everybody yes. Okay, well, the best way to get a good deal is to expose yourself to all the inventory that matches your criteria. There's no obligation to buy a home or ever even look at a home, but why don't you get moved to the front of the line instead of waiting for it to hit Zillow or Realtor.com? Let's cut the line. Let's move to the front of the buffet line. Free pass. No obligation. When's a good time to get together? 80% appointment conversion. 8 out of 10 say yes. When 8 out of 10 say yes, less nurture, less follow-up, less nonsense. And I can do the same thing on the seller side. Seller says, well, why don't you give us a call in the spring? We all hear that, right? Call us next fall. My kids are graduating from high school. That's when we're going to put our house on the market. Okay, I can do that. Don't be adversarial. I can do that. I'd be happy to do that. But let me ask you, when that time arrives, is getting the most amount of money for your home important to you? 100% of the time, yes.
Yeah.
It's like setting the trap. It's like a tripwire. Well, yeah, of course it is. Well, the best time to accomplish that is way before your house goes on the market. It doesn't sound like you're in any rush. I'm in your neighborhood a lot in Mapleton. Like I'm there 3-4 times a week. How about we set up a time next week? Because I can give you some inexpensive recommendations that you can do to position your home in the fall when you put it on the market so you get the most amount of money for it. I can also point out things you might be thinking of doing that you don't have to or shouldn't do that'll save you time and money, and give you an overview of the market, when the best time to sell is, what your expenses are going to be. There's no cost, no obligation for that. How's one day next week or the week after?
So it seems So it seems like what you've done with this process, right? Is and I agree, and I like what you said. You said, look, buying a home is a process; it's not not an event. And I usually tell people, I say, look, buying a house takes time. It's not like buying a car where you go in and leave with the car the same day. It's a process. But what you're doing is you're helping people become aware of the process that happens prior to going on market with these, or prior to buying, right? Is you're saying, look, the process doesn't start when we sign. The process starts now, is what you've done.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment?
Huge, 100%. And your chances for success go up because the seller is thinking, oh, this guy's coming over to, our lady is coming over to help me, to add value to me with no expectation of the listing. Now, by the way, generally when I get there, I get the listing because I can show them face to face that they might be leaving a lot of money on the table waiting till the fall, right? Interest rates are going up. Does that concern you? Do you know what that impact has on the price of your house? When interest rates go up, what does that do to the buying population? It reduces the buying population. When demand is reduced, guess what happens to price? You know, another factor, Mr. Seller, is the moratorium on foreclosures has been lifted. So all last year, there weren't any foreclosures. But guess what? Banks are foreclosing now. And all these sad families who sadly lost their businesses, lost their jobs, are 10, 12 months behind in their mortgage payments. Guess what? Those homes are hitting the market. In the fall, there'll be hundreds of them, and you'll have to compete with foreclosures. Is that what you want to do?
No, never.
So
supply demand.
So what I would summarize is keep it very one step at a time. Don't try to mix everything together. I check the box as we go along. Did I generate the lead? Did I get that lead on the phone? Did I make a compelling offer? Did I get the appointment? Did I qualify the appointment? Even though they're not expecting to list their home, my qualifying questions start to move them in that direction.
I love it. It's and I love this concept, right? This is one of those aha moments for me is including that before the time, right? In the process. Look, it's a process, but that process starts now, even if you're not looking at buying or selling right now, which is amazing. And like you said, 8 to 10 of the times when you're on the phone with these leads, you're converting those to an appointment. And then when you're there, that's when you're showing the real value, and you start to talk about, here's why now is an important time to list your home. This is really, really cool. I love it. Tell me, we've talked to you. You mentioned, look, letters, Facebook, and these places to get that unique message out there. Are there other places that agents should be looking to say, look, this is where I can be exposed using one of those great messages that's going to generate for me? Because letters and social media seems like the obvious. Are there some that are less obvious that our audience should be looking at?
Well, first of all, you guys are one of the best in the business in terms of lead generation, and you produce great quality leads. There are no bad leads. Okay, so if somebody wants it done for you, REDX, fantastic. And you can use the process. It doesn't matter the source of the lead. My conversion process works with REDX leads, works with Facebook leads, works with personal referrals. Buyers and sellers want the same thing. So we need to understand that we need leads. There's 3 types of media in terms of chunking. There's expensive media, television, radio, billboards, moving trucks. I had a moving truck, right? You know, that's expensive. Bus benches, sponsoring big events. That's expensive. But there's 2 other medias that I'd like people to be on the lookout for. Inexpensive / cheap / affordable, meaning shoestring budget cheap. And then there's free media. Most people, or oftentimes I see real estate agents starting with the expensive stuff, and they didn't do any of the free or cheap stuff. So here's some examples. And you can just look in your market. Everybody should be on the lookout for ways to get your messaging in front of your ideal clients. So in Mapleton, Utah, where you want to get listings based on this, little role playing example, I would be looking with my eyes wide open in Mapleton for advertising opportunities. Where do those $800,000 to $2 million homeowners hang out? Where do they congregate? How can I put the bait in front of the fish? Many of them go to church. Call the congregation, ask if you can advertise a business card size ad in their newsletter. You'll often find it's $30 to do that. That's cheap. And you're now in front of 1,000 parishioners. And in Nashua, I did the Jewish synagogue. I did the Greek Orthodox Church. I did the Baptist Church. I did the Lutheran Church. I was in every new church bulletin in southern New Hampshire because it was cheap. I get a call from a Jewish family. I go out, I list their home. My last name's Moses. They go, "We've never seen you at our synagogue. How long have you been a member?" I go, "I'm Catholic." They go, "Huh, we saw your ad in the bulletin." I know, I advertise everywhere. So it's just a matter of getting your message, thinking strategically. So bulletins are great. Business cards are cheap, but most people put their name, their picture, and their address and phone number on a business card with no offer. What if you printed up 1,000 business cards and your contact information was on the back, but your offer was on the front? Like, sell your Mapleton, Utah home without listing it for sale. No signs, no open houses, quick, easy, and convenient. Call Brian. People go, "I was going to list my house with my neighbor, the hairdresser." But how does this work? Maybe I can avoid all that pain and suffering of having people traipse through the house in the winter. "Hey, Brian, how does this work?" "Oh, thanks for calling. It works great. When can I see your house?" It's that easy. It's that easy. Get sellers to call you and then ask for the appointment. So business cards, church bulletins. Let's talk about some free ways. Businesses in your organization have meetings with their team, with their employees. Call and offer to be a real estate resource for them. And you control the narrative of that meeting. That's free. So now you're in front of a couple hundred employees. You're talking about real estate, interest rates, and you're controlling the narrative. And you're letting them know about all your menu of buyer services and all your menu of seller services.
I love it. And that's exactly what I was looking for, right? We always think of the obvious places that we can get in front of people. I love these additional ideas. We're bumping up against our time here. So let me ask one final question here, Brian. Let's say this direct marketing is direct response marketing is brand new to somebody. What's the simplest way for somebody to just begin tomorrow or today to implement something? If there was something that you have talked about today that you went, that's where they should begin, that's the number one thing that they should start with, what would that be? What would the gold nugget that they can walk away with and go, I can start doing that today? What would that be?
Okay, so always put yourself in the prospect's shoes. And if you can solve a problem, you're going to have a huge advantage. But the simplest thing, the most basic thing is use targeting in your geography. So we've all seen, want to know what your home is worth, visit www.freehomeprice.com. And they can go to Zillow for that. They can go to a myriad of different places. But if they see your offer, you have a chance that somebody's selling their home will go there. Use the town and the geography in the offer. So don't say selling your Utah home. Utah's a huge state. Instead, run one ad that says selling your Mapleton home soon? Question mark. Find out what it's worth instantly. Go to www.mapletonhomeprices.com. Now they think that it's very specific to them, which will give you an increased leg up over the other universal generic sites that are out there.
I love it.
And I would set up a second and a third and a fourth for the different other areas that you want to do, but be very specific.
I love it. Thank you so much. I love what we've talked about so far. Anything that somebody can walk away and go, there's one or two things that I can take away from that conversation and I can start doing in my business right now. And you had several gold nuggets in there, which I appreciate. Brian, if people want to learn more about what we talked about, do you have some resources that where people could go or look?
You bet. We put together a special training webinar for REDX clients, for the people that are watching this. It's exclusive to them. They can go to getlistingsfast.com. It's a 1-hour training. We go deep, we go wide. We show them examples of different messages. We show them many, many examples of inexpensive and free media. And then if they want to do more, there's a whole bunch of resources of how they can work with us if that's what they want to do. But there's a 1-hour free training that'll take this conversation to the next level with them. GetListingsFast.com.
I love it. And I can imagine that, even just the gold nuggets that somebody can get out of the conversation we had to go into greater detail is certainly a powerful thing. Thank you so much, Brian, for being with us. If you'll hang out, we'll have some follow-up things with you here post-show. Guys and gals, thank you so much. As a reminder, we do this podcast every Thursday at 1:30 in the afternoon on Mountain Time. And we've been doing this for a long, long time. You can go see any previous podcasts that we've done, and we categorize those by group, by content, by topic. And you can find those at theredx.com/podcast. If you go there, you can also subscribe to get the updates for these. So sometimes we'll do highlight reels. We'll update you on who the next guest is going to be. Really, really great content. We've had many, many professionals just like Brian here on this podcast. And we will have many, many more in the future. Brian, thank you again for being with us. We appreciate your knowledge, your experience, your expertise that you've shared with us today. We appreciate you putting together that 1-hour training for our audience as well. I hope that people take advantage of that. GetListingsFast.com. So thank you so much for doing that. Guys and gals, we will see you here, same time, same place next week. If you want to, again, view or update, go to theredx.com/podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.